It started with a whisper, faint at first, almost like the wind threading through the trees. But the more I listened, the clearer it became. Someone, something, was calling my name. You ever get that feeling that you're not alone, even when there's no one else around? That gnawing sense that eyes are on you, watching from the shadows just beyond your sight? That was exactly how I felt deep in the forest of Black Hollow, a stretch of wilderness so dense and untouched that even experienced hikers refuse to explore too far in. I should have done the same. I should have turned back the moment I felt that prickle on the back of my neck. But I didn't. I was stubborn. I wanted the thrill, the adventure. I wanted to prove I wasn't afraid. And in doing so, I walked straight into something I was never meant to see. The first night was uneventful. I set up camp near a small clearing, built a fire, and let the stillness of the woods settle around me. It was peaceful, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world beyond the trees doesn't exist. But as the flames crackled and the sky darkened, the feeling crept back in. That unease, that sensation of being watched, that I brushed it off, blaming my overactive imagination. But then, just as I was about to turn in for the night, I heard it at a twig snapping. Close that I held my breath, my heart pounding against my ribs. The fire cast flickering shadows against the trees, distorting the shapes into something unnatural. I scanned the darkness, searching for movement, but saw nothing. Just the endless stretch of trees swaying gently in the night breeze. Probably an animal, I muttered to myself. That was the rational explanation, the one that kept my fear at bay. But then came the whisper, soft, distant, almost human. My name. I froze. My skin turned to ice, and no one knew I was out here. No one. I swallowed hard and turned toward the sound. Hello? My voice barely carried, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the woods' silence. I stood there for what felt like forever, listening, waiting, but nothing happened. Eventually, I convinced myself it had been my mind playing tricks on me and crawled into my tent. But sleep didn't come easy. Every rustle, every snap of a branch sent a jolt of fear through me. And even as exhaustion finally pulled me under, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was just outside my tent, watching, waiting. Morning came, and with it, the illusion of safety. Sunlight filtered through the trees, and the fear of the night before felt distant, almost foolish. I packed up and continued deeper into the woods, determined to reach the old fire lookout I had marked on my map. It was supposed to have an incredible view, a place where you could see nothing but miles of endless green stretching out in every direction. But as I walked, the unease returned. The forest was too quiet. No birds, no rustling of small creatures in the underbrush. Just an oppressive silence that made the air feel heavier. And then I noticed it. Footsteps. Not mine. They were behind me, keeping pace. Light, almost hesitant. I stopped abruptly, and so did they. I turned, scanning the trees, my pulse hammering. Who's there? I called. No answer. A gust of wind rustled the leaves, sending a shiver through me. I wasn't alone. I knew it, but I couldn't see anything. It was like the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to make a move. I forced myself to keep walking, picking up my pace. The footsteps followed, always just far enough behind that I couldn't see their source. My breathing grew ragged. This wasn't normal. This wasn't an animal. This was someone or something playing with me. I walked faster. The footsteps quickened. I broke into a run. So did they. Branches tore in my arms, the ground uneven beneath my feet, but I didn't dare stop. I didn't dare look back. My only thought was to reach the fire lookout. If I could just make it there. The cabin came into view, weathered and abandoned but still standing. I practically threw myself inside, slamming the door shut behind me. My chest heaved, my body trembling as I pressed my ear against the wood, listening. Silence. Had I imagined it? Had the fear warped my senses? Then, ever so softly, right outside the door, a whisper. Not just any whisper. My own voice. Chills raced down my spine. It was repeating my words, mimicking me. "Who's there?" it whispered, the cadence identical to my own voice from earlier. I staggered back, my heart hammering against my ribs. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. Slowly, with shaking hands, I peered out the dirty window, and I saw it, a shape standing just at the edge of the trees. Too tall, too thin. Its face, if it even had one, was shrouded in darkness. But I knew it was looking at me. I could feel it. Then it took a step forward. I stumbled back, my mind screaming at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. My only escape was the forest, but I knew, God, I knew, I wouldn't make it far. The whisper came again, right outside the door. Closer now. Let me in. No, 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 no. I squeezed my eyes shut, clutching my head, willing it to stop. But it didn't. It kept whispering, kept calling my name in my own voice, growing more distorted with every repetition. I don't know how long I sat there, curled in the corner of that rotting cabin, waiting for the nightmare to end. But eventually, the whispers faded. The presence outside the door disappeared. When I finally built up the courage to look out the window again, there was nothing there. Just trees. Just the endless, silent woods. I ran. I didn't stop until I was out of that forest, until I was back in my car, back to civilization, back to safety. But even now, even as I sit here telling you this story, I can still hear it. That whisper, my voice, call my name. If you ever find yourself alone in the woods and you hear something, someone, mimicking you, run. And whatever you do, don't look back. If this story gave you chills, make sure to subscribe for more terrifying true horror stories. The woods are full of things we were never meant to see, and I'll be here to share the stories that prove it.